Hi, my name is Uhuru Mofokeng and welcome to the South African Book Review Sessions, your online political book club where everything political literature is dissected, vivisected, and eviscerated. Thank you for joining us and thank you in a special way for the feedback. Thank you for the subscription. To those of you who have not yet subscribed, please press the subscribe button right below under your screen right there. What are we doing today? Today we are doing a book I've been highly anticipating to do with you, a book called Tobacco Wars by Johann van Locherenbeck. Now, first and foremost, Van Locherenbeck is not your usual journalist who eventually writes a book. Van Locherenbeck is a detective who eventually from the SAPS went and worked for SARS. He worked for the revenue services for 16 years. By the time of his departure, he was in charge of serious investigations, like he was head of investigations of serious excise taxes which have been evaded and so forth. So it was a big shot. Now he writes, it's nice, it's great reading this book because it gives you better insight because it's written by someone who's been inside the system, who operated the system, who was a watchdog of the system. So it's not like someone who's being told a tale. So it's very intriguing. Now I'll give you the ratings of the book definitely by the time the video ends. Now, what caught my eye about this book was the time I bought the book. I bought this book when lockdown started. Remember when lockdown started in the country and cigarettes were banned. The sale and purchasing of cigarettes was prohibited in South Africa by then. And as a smoker, I was quite frustrated. So just 2 days before lockdown started and everyone was supposed to be isolating and be quarantining and stuff, I managed to buy books. When I got to my book outlet, my eye got this book caught my attention, caught my eye actually. The design is that of a packet of a cigarette. You can tell it's the cigarettes. This is the logo. It's two lions, with one with an RPG-7, one with an AK-47, and you can still tell of the same logo within the cigarettes. Tobacco Wars. It seems like very beautiful packaging, creative. I like the packaging. It caught my eye. Now I bought the book. Believing I'm gonna get some insight on why is tobacco and cigarettes being a victim during a pandemic like a lockdown. Why close? Why shut down? Why prohibit the sale and purchasing of tobacco and its products? I bought the book, I read it. Now the book introduced me to the world of tobacco and the vastness of its industry. It introduced me to the old boys, the ones who've been dominating the space. It introduces us to its weak points, how gradually their power base have shifted, how the tobacco industry have shifted, and how much government have played a role in shifting the market of of the tobacco industry by minimizing smokers. So how did the government do that? Through legislation. It imposed legislation that made it difficult for tobacco industry to market their products. Two legislations I can think of. I can think of an act in 93. It's also written in 93 which prohibited the smoking which prohibited smoking in public transport. Like you could before then you could smoke in trains and planes and taxis and buses, but then after 93 you could not smoke in any of those places because of that particular law. Now after that, also when 93 the state introduced an act, a law which which was enforceable to all companies producing cigarettes, that in their packaging they must write warnings about the health hazards that are accompanied with smoking. And at the rear, you must at least expand the details on how people can get help. It became part of the legislation. It came in 1993. Before 1993, this was not done. Now, the very same law was amended in 2000, not for the benefit of the tobacco industry, for the tobacco manufacturers, but then for the broader public. Um, the law, a new amendment came in that prohibited the smoking in public places. Before then, you could smoke anywhere in public, but then after 2000, you could not smoke anywhere in public. And the worst blow came when the same law actually prohibited the sponsorships of events and tournaments by cigarette companies, by cigarette manufacturers, and actually prohibited tobacco and cigarette companies from marketing its product, from actually recruiting new people. There was no marketing whatsoever in the form of tournaments, in the form of advertisements. It was stopped. That's why you can check any magazine, and you can check mainstream TV in South Africa, the newspapers, you will not see an ad of cigarettes. That was not so before 2000, but after 2000 it was like that. That created a serious crisis for the manufacturers of cigarettes, because that meant the number of smokers, as I've said, was shrinking, in the market was shrinking. And these ones who were already key players in the market were very overprotective of their space. They were not welcoming any newcomers because they could see the market is shrinking, and they have the competitions among themselves, and they would love to keep it that way without any new competition. So that's the nature of capital and monopoly. They colluded and they formed something called an institution called TISA, Tobacco Institute of South Africa, I think. Yes, Tobacco Institute of South Africa, which protected their interest. By interest meaning it made sure that no newcomers came to the party. But then these newcomers realized, no man, we need to penetrate the space. And the state came through again, allowing them to operate if they're willing to, or to oblige themselves to tax laws. And they did so. That's why we find companies like Gold Leaf Tobacco, companies like Carney Links, companies like your amalgamated tobacco manufacturers colluding to form a something which is competition to TISA, the Big Boys Club. So they formed their own small boys club called FITA, and it's called Fair Trade Association. And these guys are basically the newcomers. They've got the money, they've got the political connections. For example, this book proves that both FITA and TISA have a lot of political connections. They have, for example, it says TISA is so disgusted by the existence of FITA in such a way that it long captured our state agencies, more especially our law enforcement agencies, to be precise, your state security agency, your national prosecuting agency, the Hawks, crime intelligence in the SAPS, captured them to themselves so that they can serve their interest and deal and eliminate their competition, which came through the FITA affiliates. It is written up in this book. It is a book about colluding of big business and state agencies and politicians against competition. It's a thrilling book. Now, one intriguing part about this book is that the author positions a particular lady called Walter Belinda, an attorney. Walter Belinda, who happened to be his girlfriend somehow, and he wasn't aware. The author claims he was not in good terms with TISA and the big boys. He claimed they actually were so antagonistic towards him and his SARS that they formed an illicit tobacco task team that excluded him, that included all the agencies we've already counted, but excluded SARS. And that made this chap a bit bitter, and that created friction between him and TISA and the leaderships of the other institutions whom he was implicating of sleeping with in the same bed as big business. Now it's a story of how big business retaliated to more SARS. Apparently, big business came in a form, it sent an agent called Walter Belinda, and the lady came and befriended the man, became the girlfriend. Once they slept together and things happened, shit hit the fan. Shit hit the fan. This woman, yeah, was there to destroy this man's life, just caused a lot of frustrations, turned his life upside down, eventually leading to his collapse in the in the institution of SARS, where the elements of the story of the rogue unit comes from. That is according to the author. The author claims that this woman was so evil and so twisted that she was a chairperson of FITA, the Small Boys Club. She was the chairperson of the board of FITA, but simultaneously, she was working for the enemies of FITA, meaning she was also a spy for the state security agency. That's what this book says. She was a spy for the state security agencies, which was after FITA and its affiliates always. But then she was, you understand that contradiction. And worst of all, not just not just a spy for SSA, but also a spy for British America Tobacco PLC in London. At a stage, she was suing them for $5 million, but then they managed to settle it out of court and all of those things. She has played for both sides. She has been found in on the side of TISA, then changed around to FITA, then went back to TISA, then went back to. And the author paints her as a very, very dangerous woman with the potential of turning anyone's life upside down, just like the way his life was turned upside down. The author locates the collapse of SARS to the departure of Ivan Pillay. He says SARS was headed the right direction under the leadership of Pravin Gordhan, and then after Pravin, Ivan Pillay. After Ivan Pillay, when Tom Moyane came, said SARS just became a joke. And if you can look at the figures attest to what he's saying. And then it's very sad that the state lost so much money from the cigarette industry, because from there, whether FITA or TISA began doing their own things, began smuggling, evading tax, and doing all sorts of things that had the potential of causing an economic backlog and a big gaping, a big hole in the pocket of the country through SARS. So what do I think about this book? I think the book is good. I think the book is fantastic. It talks about corruptions. It changes the narrative on corruptions. It proves many of these people involved in this book and how and their centrality to corruption is quite different to what we've been fed, mainly that corruption is an ANC phenomena, or it comes it's a black person's phenomena. Here white people are corrupt. In current day South Africa, they are running away from tax, they are doing all sorts of things, they're doing very counter progressive things. And worse, they've got politicians who back them up. They can buy any politicians, they can buy state agencies, they can buy security agencies. And worst of all, they speak of the unholy communion that happens between the security branch of BATSA, the FSS, as we've mentioned. They speak of how the FSS would be there when the illicit Tobacco Task Team does raids on competition of TISA affiliates, maybe when they go to Carnelings or ATM or even Gold Leaf, because these guys get harassed a lot by this illicit Tobacco Task Team. The security company, private security company under um, under British America Tobacco South Africa would be there during those raiding on competition and stealing their and engaging on economic espionage. So this is the book. Did I like the book? I loved the book. It changes the narrative. It taught me something different. I didn't know about that my smoking is such a big issue. It made me question the decision to smoke. Like, my smoking is a political thing. It has political implications and economic implications. It made me realize, oh no, smoking is a very serious business. It's one thing you need to thoroughly think about. It made me think and consider. I smoke a brand of cigarettes by Dunhill, and this means it's British American tobacco. This, according to this book, these guys are corrupt. But either way, whether I was smoking from BATSA as I'm doing, or smoking from the other side of FITA, whether Carnelings or whether ATM or Gold Leaf, the outcome is the same. They also as corrupt as these ones, because those ones are masters of evading taxes, of smuggling cigarettes, of actually making sure that they always have a number of cigarettes in the market which are uncounted for, and the profits come straight to them to chow. Guys, it's an interesting book about an interesting industry. It is not too different if you look at it broadly. It's not too different from the tale of two taxi association competing for turf. It's not too far from two rival gangs competing for the control of a turf also. So but then it's at a white collar level, like there, at that level. It's a beautiful book. But then there's a disadvantage to that. I think this chap is beat. This man was dribbled by a woman. This man was dribbled by a woman who was sent to his life by his worst enemies. Yeah. And he could not read between the lines. He got caught in this whole thing and was dribbled. And from there, the bitterness arose, because from that relationship, a lot of shit went downhill. From his private life, to his work. Eventually, this had a big repercussions on the country, because after Ivan Pillay left, and not just alone, with Somar 500 other highly competent staff. When Tomane came, SARS became a caricature. So we hope this Stuyvesant chap who's in charge now will actually bring back the dignity and the bite of SARS, and actually lessen the political influence that comes along with that position, and actually make sure that the millions and billions owed to the country by big business and powerful individuals comes back. How do I rate this book from 0 to 10? I hardly rate any book under 2, and I've never given any book 10. I love this book very much. It's a fantastic book. It's a great book. I enjoyed reading it. It opened up my mind. I didn't know 90% of the things in here. I didn't know. These were new things to me. I learned of old people who've been destroyed by big business, by TISA. People who were trying to come up with their own companies long ago, were trying to be pioneers. I've learned of those chaps, your Highway Henny, your Tribet Ayapatra. I've learned about a lot of chaps, and I've learned about the collapse and rise and the falling and shrinking of an industry. It's very, very interesting. It tells you of how corrupt the tobacco industry is. If you want to talk about state capture, this is another place to check, like a real place to check if you're really interested about state capture. State capture is here. Big business, big money, old money. They do anything for profits, that buy anyone. But I doubt anyone would be willing to even try investigate. Otherwise, it's all money.